Hey, parents, if you don't know me, my name is Keaton. I am one of the Young Life leaders at Rogersville with my wife Dory, and then our friends Brandon and Sydney. Um, I guess we actually have some freshman parents that don't probably know us. I went to Rogersville. Dory went to Rogersville. Brandon is from um, St. Louis, and him and I worked together, and then became friends. And then he started leading at Rogersville, and his wife Sydney is from Republic. They got married. Dora and I are married, and we're all leading now. And then we've actually got some new leaders that we're training. And so, if you don't know us now, you at least know what I look like, right? Where you probably saw our faces when you dropped your kiddos off yesterday morning at the Young Life building for the RAD trip, road trip without the O. And so I just kind of wanted to hop on here and tell you guys thank you and kind of what we went over with the kids this weekend. So yeah, first, thank you for trusting us with your kids this weekend. Thank you for letting us see them and hang out with them throughout this semester and the year, and hopefully a lot longer than just this year. I told the kids this afternoon when we wrapped up that we love spending time with them, and we love getting to know them and talk to them and be with them. And we so look forward because we've got a lot of freshmen, so we really look forward to getting to spend hopefully some years with them. And so that even after high school, we want to know you still, we want to be with you still, we want to be your friend. We want to be there for you if we can, if they need. And so, if you don't know a lot about Young Life, we're just a non-denominational kind of Christian group that wants to reach kids in high school specifically, and then there's wildlife for middle school. But we want to just be there for them, be near them, get to know them, be somebody that they can call a friend, but also somebody that is maybe a little bit older than them that can speak into situations that they might be going through. That is a positive and biblical, do that in a positive and biblical way. And so that's that, I guess. But I'm gonna kind of go over just so you know what we went over this weekend. If your kids, don't talk to you and you don't know what we do on like Monday nights and what we talk about and stuff. So every Monday night that we get together, we do a lot of fun and games and dancing and singing. But then at the end, we do a talk by one of the leaders, and pretty much all the time we're in the New Testament, we're speaking about Jesus and who he is and what he is and who he is to us. And the way we do that is we typically try to find a story with Jesus and then relate it to maybe something about us and a story or something that we've gone through, to try to relate it to maybe something that they are going through, have gone through, or maybe will kind of go through in a season or period of their life, to make it applicable to them, and always point it back to that Jesus is the one going after our heart, and he has a personal relationship with all of us, and we try to be a safe place for them if they need that. And so what we did this weekend was Brandon, Sydney, and Dory and I sectioned off Jonah, which is in the Old Testament, and Young Life pretty much exclusively stays in the New Testament and talks about Jesus because that's the easiest thing to relate to and understand. But we went into Jonah to show that in the Old Testament, God was still around, right? And he still loved us, just as he does in the New Testament, just as he does through and as Jesus. He still loved us in the Old Testament as God. And so we looked at Jonah, and we started off by explaining that, Jonah is, and by the way, this is gonna be like a 10-minute video, so I'm not gonna take your whole evening, but Jonah is a story that probably a lot of people know, maybe even if they're not in the church. He's the dude that got swallowed by the whale or the big fish or whatever, was spit back out. We broke Jonah down into more of what he was. So like the real story of Jonah is Jonah was prophet. He was somebody that God used to speak into situations or over things and to use. And he was somebody that had a relationship with God. He was somebody that knew a lot about the Lord. Anything that they had that was the Old Testament that wasn't written as the Old Testament yet, he knew. He knew everything that somebody at that time probably could have known. He was a man of God, and um, Jonah, like, if we look from the outside, he was probably a good dude. He's probably, he's a Christian guy, right? He was a godly guy. But God says, "Hey, Jonah, I need you to go to Nineveh." And Jonah says, "No way, Jose. That's not my thing. That's a rotten city. They got people there that I don't like, that are against you, right?" And he says, "I will not go to Nineveh." And God's like, "Hey, go to Nineveh." And Jonah says, "No, I'm going to turn my back on you and hightail it the freaking opposite way." He goes in the opposite direction. Literally on a map, if you had Nineveh and then you had Tarshish that Jonah went to, here's Jonah in the middle, here's Nineveh, here's Tarshish. Jonah went the opposite direction, okay? He was getting out of there. He didn't want anything to do with it. And so he said, "No thanks, God." But God pursues Jonah, right? He does not let Jonah get away that easy. So Jonah goes down, he gets on the ship, hightails it to Tarshish, the opposite direction of Nineveh, where he's supposed to be going, and the Lord brings over this huge storm that would not typically be on this body of water. It's a storm that isn't just like heavy rain. It's not just like big thunderstorms. It's something that is not happening normally. And the sailors are throwing stuff overboard and they're getting rid of weight and yada yada and trying to figure out, well, what's going on. And they're praying to their little g gods that don't mean anything, and they're trying to get out of this thing. And they go downstairs to Jonah and they're like, "Hey man, one, why are you sleeping? How are you sleeping through this, right? But like, help us out. And also, do you know what is going on?" They say, and so they eventually get out of Jonah who he is, what he is, where he's from, yada yada. And he says, "Hey, this is who I am. I'm a Hebrew. I'm a follower of God, big G, and I'm basically running from God." And they said, "Oh crap. Well, you're probably the reason why." Jonah's like, "Yeah, I'm the reason why this is all happening, and you should probably just throw me overboard." But I would never say throw me overboard. But they say throw me overboard, and eventually they do. They chuck him into the sea, and Jonah is swallowed up by a big fish, a whale, whatever you want to call it, and is praise to God. God eventually spits him out of the whale. He goes to Nineveh, even though he still doesn't want to, and proclaims what the Lord has for them. Goes through some other stuff. We dove in deep, but I kind of want to talk about this. What I really dug into, what we kind of tried to give them as the main takeaway, was Jonah running from the Lord, right? Running from the Lord, and God still pursuing him, still wanting him, still going after him. Jonah messed up. Jonah probably sins just like all we do, just like we all do. But God still wanted him, still wanted a relationship with him. And that was something that we were really trying to hit home. And when wrapping it up, really trying to convey to the kids that we can be going through a season of roughness, whether it's at home with parents or siblings, or it's at school with teachers or schoolwork or friends, boyfriend and girlfriends, if it's sports, if it's whatever it is that we're going through that's rough. It's a family member passing away, or maybe it's totally different than that, and it's just, "Hey, I don't want to know God, or I don't want to learn about Jesus. I don't want to have a relationship with him. That sounds weird. I don't want to do that. That is not what my family does. That is not what I want to do. That's not, maybe I've done it and I didn't have a good time with it." Any of that can be going on, and God can still look at us and say, "I want you. I want to have a relationship with you. I want to know you. I want to be with you." And that's something that we told the kids, that is what we have. We have a relationship with God. We want to go after God. He is going after us. We mess up all the time. I sin. I am, not an awesome husband all the time, like maybe 96% of the time, but that other 4%, I'm not a good husband. I'm not a good son. I'm not a good friend. But God sees me and still says, I want you. I love you. I want to know you. That season that you went through, that you said, no thanks, I don't want to have anything to do with you. I still want you during that season. I still want you when you lie, when you cheat, when whatever's going on, when you're mad at your mom, when she's mad at you. I still want you. And so when Jonah was a man of God and God used him previously, God said, hey, Jonah, go do this thing for me. And he said, I don't really want to. God didn't say, all right, fine, then get out of here. I don't want to see you again. Or you're not, one that I want anymore. I'm going to go over to this next bigger, better guy. He didn't say that. He went after Jonah, even when Jonah didn't want God. And so that's the main point that we're trying to hit this weekend, and want the kids to know. I've went through times that were rough, and I just ignored God, right? But I wouldn't be where I am right now and have a relationship with the Lord that I do now, and have the wife and the family that I do now, if I said, you know what, God, that's fine, and He said, you know what, that's fine. And if He didn't continually pursue me, my life would be totally different in a not so happy, great way. And so, again, if you don't know what we're going through, what we're about at Young Life in Rogersville, that's what we're about. We want to show the kids that God is a good God. We tell them about a time specifically that we maybe have gone through, or something's happened that we needed God, and that He showed up. And we show them that God is one that loves us, that He's one that shows up, and that He is one that they can lean on. And we told them today, if they need somebody to lean on, we would love to be that person that they can lean on. If they need somebody that they can talk to, we would love to be that person that they can talk to. I told him, Dory and I have had a kid show up at 11 o'clock at night. It was 10:45, and we were in bed, and we were like starting a movie, and she called and said, hey, can I come over? And we said, yeah. And I had to put clothes back on, and we didn't get to watch her movie, but that was fine. We like loved that. We loved that we were someone, or a place that she could come when she needed to. And so that's what we are. We want to be a tool for God to use in your kid's life if they need that, and if God so decides to use us in that way. And so we're people that, when your kids talk to us, we're going to be, at least attempt to be different than the world is right now. And we're going to try to allow God to speak life through us into the kids' life, and to point things back to the Lord when they're going through things. We're not going to say, man, that sucks. We're going to say, hey, man, that does suck, but let's get through this. Let's look to see how the Lord can get us through this. And not them on their own, but like, let's see how He can get us through this. We're in this together with you. We want to be with you and near you. I think I just did a bunch of rambling, but I just want to convey, especially to the parents for like our younger kids that maybe don't know us at all. We love your kids. We want to love your kids. We want to be with your kids. We do stupid stuff, and we dance around, and we're crazy, and they think we're lame. But it's because we want to be vulnerable, and we want to be somebody that they feel like they can be around, and aren't, aren't outcasts from, that isn't a safe place for them. We don't want, if school's uncomfortable for them, if home's uncomfortable for them, we don't want to be another uncomfortable place for them. And so that is our heart for them. That's our heart for you guys. We so want to support you guys and your family by supporting your kids. And so we are there behind you. Might be younger than you, but we are there to support you. And so, also, like, we're totally available to talk to you anytime you want to. So, like, if you say, "Hey, Johnny's struggling with this," or "We're struggling with this at home," can you be looking out for that? Or can you be an open ear? If Johnny wants to talk about it, yes, we can. Like, we want to be there and listen and speak life into Johnny and into his family. And so that's that. We had an awesome, awesome time this weekend on the Rad Trip. I'm looking at the time. I have talked more than I said I was gonna, which usually happens, but I also usually cry at the end of these videos, and I'm not crying right now, and so that is a plus. But anyways, we had a good time with them. Thank you for trusting us with your kids. Thank you for like helping keep the secret of the Rad Trip, right? And try to pull out of them what we did this weekend. Asking about the trip down to the cabin, that they had to switch seats like 47 times before we got there in the vehicles. And so, thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, and we're praying for you. Okay. Thanks. Mhm.